Okay, here we go again with the next part of the working with the Mamiya-Sekor C 127mm 3.8 and it's for the RB, Mamiya RB. Then I will continue with simply disassemble the shutter, and it will say not the blades, we will come to them sooner, but take apart the there are some steel ball bearings in here and some pins, and of course the shutter, exposure ring, and all the parts in here that belongs to the shutter mechanism. So let's jump into it with some tools which I have here. We need some, at least a good flathead screwdriver, a JIS from Japan, no, from Moody Tools, which I buy at ifixit.com. Yeah, this is not a commercial. I'm not paid by any. What I'm doing is I use my own money to buy my own stuff. Now, there is a need for a little tool in here to the mainspring. So I simply make myself a small, what do you say, a lifter. I mean, one can lift up the spring. So in a safe mode, so it's not just flew away. This is just a screwdriver, a small jewelry screwdriver, which I have filed a little, so it can be useful to that. A pointy tweezer and a dentist tool. We will probably need some more, but let's go into it. There's one good thing to start with, is simply to make some marks. Here, this pin here will stay there. It's not meant to come apart. On this plate that actually cover the bowl, there are, and I counted, there are 12 steel balls and 12 pins under here. There are two special screws that are a little higher than the other one, here and here. The higher, I just set a mark where they should sit, and I also set a arrow here against this pin here. So we know where things should sit. There's also a part here is a kind of a hook that catches when I cock the shutter. It will catch up here, kind of a lock. It will also come apart, and we can actually just do it at the moment. This is just a flathead screwdriver only used for that. Nothing special. Remember the orientation. I mean, it can actually only sit in one way. And under that, of course, we need a crosshead, JIS screwdriver, to take apart the other. And just to make sure things should sit where they should, I also set a small arrow, which you can see here, there. So this pin here, this part here, I don't know what the name, should also sit against the little arrow here. And the screw should also sit next to it. So all for that. And now we're going to the back and see what's happened here. So to make it easier, much easier, I will just use those rubber tools, because it can actually sit on it and make it more easier to work with. So I will keep the arrow and the pin and the flash contact up. It will, before we take this apart, just so we know where things should sit. I should also mention there is a spring in here that is long and thin, and you should be aware of that when you put it back in again, but of course I will show you. Now, to take off this, and be aware of the parts that's underneath, because it can't flew away. So keep 2 fingers on here, especially when you unscrew the last screw. So here we are. And now keep 2 fingers on the black, and then we can take off the brass plate here. That's a part of the bearing system, and on one side is flat, on the other there is a kind of a a groove that all the pins and the bearing balls in here should sit. Keep in mind, in this lens there are 12 steel balls and 12 pins. It could be different in your lens. And to make it a little easier, I can just lift up the cocking ring and bend it a little, so the spring here will come loose. It's connected to part of the aperture in here, which you can see I turn. So it should also sit in that way, so one can actually just lift it up and then it's free. So somebody else has been into the lens before me. And you see the lens has to go, when you put it back in again, it should sit like this. It could by accident come into here when you put it on, so be aware of that. And then I will speed up the process to take out the pins, because then it will take a long time to do it. And one can actually also use a screwdriver to take out the steel balls. It will make it a little easier. Magnetic screwdriver is good in this case. So we can just go all the way around. It was but not too many. If you miss one thing, miss one steel ball, well, you not really have a problem. It will still work, but not as it should. So now we are here. And then can take off all the small pins. I think they are made of bronze or something. I mean, the color says could have also be brass, but I think it's bronze. So there. There. And here we are. So now, and before we continue, just to, I mean, it's a good thing when you put things back in again, because the shutter housing will be set on from above. It's not you put the shutter in to the housing. It will not work, in my opinion, at least. Now, I set a few marks around here, especially around here with a pen. Just set a mark that so you know the orientation of this one is up. There's also a good thing to set a mark here where the aperture should stay when you put this plate in the cocking ring on again. It will make it a little easier, in my opinion. Another thing that is good is before you take off the exposure ring, it's also good to set a mark where the exposure ring has to come on to the shutter housing. And the red one is also, I will show you sooner when it what it will be used for. Now we can actually go deeper into the shutter mechanism itself, and for that we will take off this lock ring here. Oh, we can see there is something light problem here. Now the lock ring here comes off, and put it aside. This is really shiny. So now we can take off the exposure ring. Click, it comes loose. And then it's here. It's not really anything special. All for that. Now I set a mark here inside here, an arrow, and against the little hole that is where do we have it? That is where this pin from the outside goes into with the plasticky cover here. And this is just because it I will take the inside, all the inside here I will take out, and the housing will be itself with the aperture system in. So it's just to make it easier to before you actually take things apart. Now let's go deeper into it. The cocking gear here, we can take out this, the small gear, take it out, and the cocking spring is connected to to a tiny pin over here. I just set a small red dot here, so it's easy to show you how it should sit, and not something of the, I mean, not one of the other pins. So we can just take it off. and take the cocking gear out. So now, and then we will go deeper into it. Just need some better things to look through, because things are really small. Now, I mentioned that the spring, the main spring, should come off in a easy way. And I mean, you could use a screwdriver, but nah, not really. You have to lift it, lift the one end of the cocking spring. You have to lift it out of this brass here. So that is why this is a kind of a hook, so one can push on it and something like that, lift it up a little and go a little back, so in a safe movement. And then we can take out the main spring, so there, and we can also take out this part here. Remember how it's facing. I mean, the inside, this pin here should show, actually go through the this pin in here. It will say, I know it's difficult to see, but this pin in here, it was actually that pin that broke off, and that's why I actually get the lens for free. Now, so then we can take out the self timer, I mean the slow gear, sorry, and also remember how it should sit. This part here should sit on the right side of this this pin here. So I can take off the slow gear. There's my screwdriver here. There's a long screw in one end and two small in the other end. I mean, around here. It's the same screws, same dimension. Yeah. Okay, little fellow. So, sometimes it's good with a magnetized screwdriver. And this screwdriver is 2.5 millimeter. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. Now, take out the slow gear that we have here, and then more small parts. Then we can better see what's going on in here. And yeah, what to do then? I will just take off the two screws here on this bar. I don't know what the name is. And this part here has a little hairspring, and it should sit correct. But I will then take out the bar first. It has two countersunk screws. When you arrange your screws and parts so you can find it again, I do it in groups. I mean, it doesn't really work for me to have a piece of paper with the parts on. Maybe it works for some. I better place the things in groups on my desk. Now here we see the tiny hairspring as it should sit. It has to go there. Just lift it up a little. And in the other end it says around this pin. And then with the use of a flathead screwdriver, so there, and things come all apart in one one piece. There. And then we go to the next section over here, and be aware of how it should sit. We can just try to give it a little movement, just so you can see how it works. And you can see the movement of the blades is kind of slow. This is why there are some traces of oil on the blades, shutter blades. So I will also dig into that and take them apart. And yeah, we just begin with the springs here. The hairspring, so like that, and I will just arrange them over here so I know where they should sit. And then take really good care of the small lock ring here. This one, and there are a few over here too that we can take off. I mean, it's not really necessary to take all parts off here, but this is just so you could see what's actually inside here. So I will begin with this pin, this part here, and with the use of a very pointy dentist tool, and you should keep your fingers very close to it so it will not fly away. And hopefully it's possible. Maybe it's better to use a flat nose plier. So it's a bit, I have moved a little, and then it should be possible to move it further off. So now it's free, and I can just use my tweezer to take it off. So there, and also take this part up. So it sits there. And then this pin here will also come off. Maybe it's not necessary, but I will do it anyway. Move it a little. And where did it went? Here. Because those lock ring you will not miss it there, and this part, which I actually have to sit out there, off with that. And now also this spring down here, maybe it's better with a dented tweezer. One leg is longer than the other one. The longest leg have to sit into the pin here. It would say something like that. So off that, and one can hopefully lift it up, so you see it's there. It's not good when a tweezer is magnetic. So this part here comes off. There is a screw here, and there is also a spring in here underneath here. Keep a finger on it. So there, and the hairspring. So something like that. And the hairspring, it has to sit in a way like this here. So you put it over, put it over here, and one end, it will say the short end has to go under this part here, and this will also come off, and the little gear here. So now that's it, part of it. Then we go over to the other side and lift up one part here. This is actually the part of the shutter button, as I see it. You have to lift it up, and there will be one spring that comes free. So, and we can lift it up like this. So the spring has to sit in that position. I mean, oh, come on, out of focus. In that position, but just turn it over, and the spring has to go against the side into the notch here. There. And this part here also have to come loose. Oh, this part here has also to come loose. But before doing that, we have to unscrew this tiny screw here. There. And you can see it cannot come fully over there. And it's why we have to take off the MNX lever here, and the spring, I mean there's a plate underneath, we also need to take off. And again, be aware of the little lock ring here. But with my use of a flat nose plier, it should be possible to push it out a little that way. In this case. And where is my dentist tool here? And again, keep a finger on it so you will not lose it, and simply push it out. Now, and it's free. There. This here, the plate, which is also a kind of a spring. You see the it has to sit correct. So this end here is also a kind of a, it makes a click on the MNX lever. And then there are a few springs here we have to be aware of. There's one here. This pin here lifted up. And the other end is actually go around this part here, which you hopefully can see. So I lift it up here, so it's something like that. And then this pin is the connection for, I mean, it's actually the way they make the flash. I mean, it goes when the when the what do you say the connection for the flash. So when the shutter is fired, it will click on it. I mean, it will make a connection to it. So out with that. So something like this. And one thing to be aware of, when you put this flash contact in again, be aware of how it should sit, because both those small pins, it will say this one and the lower part, they both have to go over there, and then you simply slide this in between. I think I can show it. So it has to sit, I mean, you have to push both of them over. If not, well, it will not work. But for now we will just let them stay there. There's no need for take those off. There is another spring in here. We need to lift up a little. See this spring here? We cannot take it off because it's not screwed into it. So I can just move it a little up, because then it will be much easier to put in the inner shutter house, I mean the shutter plate assembly, or whatever name it has. There's another spring in here, this black one, that we also need to take out. And the dented tweezer is good for that. lift it out, so, and then it should be free. The long end of this spring here has to go against this pin, because the other end is bended a little. So we're there, there. It's not possible to take that out yet, but hopefully we can take out the spring here. Can be a little tricky. So, and it has to go there. So. It's not possible to actually get this pin all the way over to here, because I need to move this, to open the blade a little, and then I can move it further over, and then that way get this out. So kind of a lock. So that's something to look at. Now that was part of it. So the only thing I need to do to actually unscrew 4 screws on the back here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, before you take it apart, to set a mark, something up here, so you know exactly position of this, the inside and the housing here. So there's no need for take out the other parts here. It's not necessary in this case. So it's possible to unscrew the 4 screws. There, and yeah, and again it's easier if we have something to put it on. Where did that go? Here. Because when taking out the inner here, I have to put it on something, because the pins, maybe you see this pin here is a little longer, so I can also just push this down. Yeah, so I can just go direct on the table. Now, okay, the last 2 screws come out, and have a good grip here on the back and on the front, because they are loose when you unscrew the 2 screws. That's something to be aware of. And then we will look into the shutter blades and the aperture assembly. Now, it should facing upward, because there is a reason for that. I did it in that way. So when you also when you take it out, you should do it in a way like you actually move you take the outer housing off in that way, because the pin, this tiny spring here, will not come off, so I have to get free of it. So I just lift out the outer part, and then we'll go into the shutter blades, which we have here. This is the aperture assembly and the shutter blades here. Now, and when we are here, you see the mark here, the red mark here. It's the same. I actually here, you see the through it here. Now, there are 5 blades, and there is one part that is what do you say? There's one small part of the aperture, the shutter assembly here, that is different from the other. All the blades are the same, but see this groove here? There's one tiny, what do you say, not a blade, it's more kind of a maybe I can lift it up. Where's my lens sucker here? So if I take my lens sucker here and lift it up, you will see there is a different part here. This one here, this is not a blade. Well, it's kind of a, it's the one side of the shutter mechanism, the blades, but it sits between 2 blades. This is why there is a groove there, because I think it's because the one of the pins here is a little longer. I don't know, but keep in mind how it sits. So I will just take off this the blades and put them into something isopropyl alcohol or lighter fluid. See, it's quite easy with a small lens sucker. So and finally the last part here, which I will take off with my tweezer for stamp collectors. It's a really good thing. And then here we are. And then we have the actual shutter without the blades. Just put this aside here. Now, the reason you can see there's a lot of oil here, and it makes it sticky. It works like a brake. Well, there are 4 screws in here, and just to keep in mind, set a small mark so you know how the plate should sit. It's actually impossible to sit it wrong. The 4 screws, there has to be 4, but one actually broke off here, so we only have 3. But you can see they are not in a fully 90 degree from each other, so they are off center or something. But we can just come into it by unscrew that. In this case, 3 screws, and they are also magnetic. So, and off with that. So there. And now it's possible to take out the ring, the plate here, which will come off like that, and see the underside, the other side. There's a lot of oil trace on this plate, so I will also clean that. And the actual reason, because I took this apart and fix it, it was because this pin here was actually, it was simply come off, broke, maybe because there was too much oil in, so it make it too much sticky. So I, with silver and a flame, and simply weld it together, and it works actually quite good. There's just so much oil on the blades, so it'll make it sticky. But it's possible because this one is made of steel and the pin is made of steel too. So we just need to clean it and then can put it back in again. So and next it will be the about the aperture plates, which we have here. There's also traces of oil, and there's also trace of oil on the other part of the shutter assembly with the plates. So yeah, we'll look further.